Hi there, it's Nicole from Mama Elephant, and today's card features the new Space Bears stamps and dies for this space-themed card. It's a great encouragement type card, or could be used for maybe a little boy's birthday or something like that. To create my space background, I am using some Ranger Distress paints instead of Distress inks here today, and I am simply putting some of the colors out on my craft mat. I'm using a little chipped sapphire, peacock feathers, squeezed lemonade, and cracked pistachio. And I probably should have put the yellow down first since it's much lighter than the blue colors, but it ended up working out. I'm going to put a little bit of that cracked pistachio there. Then I'm going to spritz it with a little water just so that it moves a little bit better when I place the watercolor paper on it. And then I'm going to press the water paper into my paint really, really well. I want to get this as covered as possible. So you can see when I flip it over, a couple of the edges didn't get ink, so I'm going to just kind of take my paper, flip it back over, and press it into the paint until all of those edges are completely covered. But the space sky is starting to take shape. I pretty much let it air dry. There were a few little splotches of color that I did dab up with a dry paper towel. And then I took some picket fence ink, and I'm going to dab that all over my craft mat as well. But this is going to leave too big of white splotches. I kind of want that galaxy stars-like look. So I spritzed it with water, and then I'm dabbing up quite a bit of it with a paper towel. That's going to leave me with much smaller little flecks. And then I'm going to press my paper into that, and you can see that great look that the picket fence ink gives. So it really does kind of look like stars in the sky. I'm going to set that aside to completely air dry while I stamp my Space Bears and the rocket ship on some Neenah Smooth cardstock. And then I'm going to color in my bears with Copic markers. The colors I'm using are shown across the bottom of the screen. I use the Intense Black ink from Simon Says Stamp. This ink works great not only with water-based markers like maybe Zig Clean Color markers, but it works great with alcohol ink-based markers like Copics. So it's not going to bleed, which is fantastic. I love this. So I am coloring in my bear with some shades of brown here. Gonna just work those colors in until I get him looking the way I want him to. I did add a little pink to the cheek, and then I'm gonna blend that out and go around some of the edges with my darker brown color, the E44, just to add a little more definition that blended out too much. And then I'm gonna add some little dot detail to give my bear some texture. I'm gonna take a colorless blender and add a few little dots to the bear. It's just going to kind of wick away the color of the ink and leave some lighter space, little spots. Then I'm going to color in the rocket with some reds, the helmet with a very, very light blue. This is the Cool Shadow. Some dark brown for the nose on the bear, and then a little blue for the rest of the rocket ship, and a little yellow. I did go ahead and die cut these images with the coordinating Space Bears dies. However, in the finished card, you're going to see that I actually cut them out. The white border around the images with the die line just didn't work for me for this card. With this sky, I felt it looked so much better when I just fussy cut the images. Now, I did not have any larger size watercolor paper left. I have used it all, so I did use the Tim Holtz watercolor paper. But this die from the Pizzazz Pieces Mama Elephant collection is exactly A2 sized, and so is the Tim Holtz watercolor paper. So I am using Post-it tape to tape it to my paint background to the die so it doesn't shift, and running it through the machine. It's going to die cut this great little dotted border all the way around. Now you could definitely leave it as is, but I chose to do this so that I could sew around the edge of the card and give a really cool handmade look to the edges of the card with a little string and a needle. The die cut holes simply make it easier to achieve this look. You could totally just sew around the edge if you wanted to, or machine stitch around the edge, but I love that the holes in this die work great for stitching. Before I do any of my stitching, however, I am going to stamp and emboss Greetings from the Space Bears set and stars and planets and all kinds of good stuff from that stamp set onto my background. And you can see it's really taking shape once you start adding these pieces. I'm stamping everything with Versamark, which is a great sticky ink that the embossing powder sticks really well to, but it's hard to see. So what I like to do is stamp an image, sprinkle on the embossing powder, stamp another one. That way I don't accidentally overlap anything. This is where I discovered that I did not like that white border around my bear, so you can see that I'm fussy cutting around him. And when I lay down this fussy cut bear on the background, I think it looks so much better for this particular card. I did take a black brush tip pen and go around the edges that I just fussy cut and blacken them. I think this just gives a nice finished edge to the piece and helps it blend into the background, and you don't see any of that white at all. I'm going to go ahead and take some planets now and stars and all of that good stuff and stamp up my background. This just really kind of ties the whole theme together and really adds a fun look. So it's got that great paint, distress paint base, then the white paint with those little tiny splotches for that galaxy effect, and then on top of that, stamping and embossing planets and stars and the greeting and all of that stuff, and it just really finishes off the whole card design. Just kind of switching back and forth between all of these little images and laying out my bear periodically so that I make sure that I'm stamping everything where I want it to go. Now once I have that all done, I am going to just hit that with my heat tool and get that embossed. And then I can move on to the rest of the assembly of this card. I'm going to take a black gel pen and add detail to the eye on my bear. Then I'm going to take glossy accents and put that all over the space helmet on the bear and set this aside to dry while I work on stitching around the edge of the background. So I'm simply just filling in that whole space helmet, and it looks kind of murky and muted, but as the glossy accents dries, you're going to be able to see through it really well. So I am simply going to stitch around the entire edge of this. You could skip a little space. You wouldn't have to backstitch, but I wanted my stitches to be right next to each other. So I'm coming up, going back down the one that I just came up, if that makes sense. So I'm going to do this all the way around. This is a great thing to do maybe if you're sitting and watching a show in the evening or something like that. Once I have that done, I'm just going to thread the end through the backing a little bit to secure it, and I'm going to cut the end not right next to where I've gone back and forth behind on the back side of the piece, but instead, here's where I'm just kind of going back and forth to secure that. Make sure that I end on the center, cut my string a little bit long. Then I'm going to place foam tape over those ends where I started and I stopped. And that's going to secure them even more so that I don't have to worry about them accidentally coming undone. I'm going to place foam adhesive on the entire back of this panel so that it's nice and sturdy and it won't kind of dip down as it goes through the mail or anything like that. I always like to make sure the backing, when I do a raised panel like this, has lots of foam adhesive so that it definitely stays raised and has that great dimension. Go ahead and flip that over. I realized that I really wanted the bear to have a balloon, and while it would have been great to do this before I had the foam adhesive, since I have so much on the back, I was able to stamp that. I'll go ahead and just attach my bear. That Glossy Accents is still drying, so I was trying to be careful and avoid the helmet. I'm also going to add that rocket ship. I kind of had forgotten about it. I wasn't exactly sure if I wanted to use it or not, but I really think I need that little pop of color, and I think it's a really fun image. So again, I fussy cut the rocket as well, and I stamped the little trail there that's going to go behind the rocket with Versamark. I'll sprinkle on white embossing powder, heat set that, and then glue my rocket ship in place. And I love the way this looks. Again, I'm going around the edges of my fussy cut piece with a black brush tip pen just to get rid of any of those white areas. I'll put something heavy like an acrylic block on top of that to hold it down. And I'm going to color in my balloon. I've stamped it on some smooth white cardstock. I'm coloring it in with those red colors again. And then I will fussy cut the balloon. Again, take that black pen, go around the edges, and glue it in place on my card. I did take the Sakura black gel pen, I just didn't do it in the video, and draw over that balloon line, and it really makes it pop and stand out more. I'm going to attach the whole panel to a top fold card base. Peel off all of those strips. And that is going to finish off my space-themed encouragement card featuring the Mama Elephant Space Bears stamps and coordinating dies. Thanks for watching this video showcasing new Mama Elephant stamps and dies from the February 2016 release. The supplies I've used to create this card are listed and linked below the video on YouTube. Please subscribe for weekly card making and stamping videos. Here are a couple more Mama Elephant videos you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.